presentation in the Classic Launch channel. Spotter, you gotta mute your mic. Yeah, I'm still in Japan. We can't hear anybody. Here, I increase the volume for you. Anyway, so I'm gonna start off with our leadership goals. So our plans for the guild, as far as leadership's concerned, is we want to create a large, organized community of competent raiders. We want to develop raiders and knowledgeable and skilled raiders. We want to manage a 7-day per week raiding schedule while allowing flexibility for our players and to have real lives outside the game, keep our players engaged with an enjoyable raiding and PvP environment. So key points would be we want you as class leaders, officers, to push players who have current skills that they've developed through playing the game and push those to new heights, and then players who don't have any experience with the game or have very little, or they haven't developed strong skill sets, to push them to that next level and make them someone that's independent and who could teach players when they're new and they join the guild. With a 7-day per week raid schedule, you're gonna have to manage. For a class leader position, you're gonna be designated to a specific team. So let's say we have 3 teams. You could be on any of the 3 teams depending on what your schedule allows for. But you may be coordinating with the class leader from A team. If you're, let's say you're on A team and you want to coordinate with class leader from B team within the same class to transfer like one player from one team to another. I mean, it doesn't have to be as structured as that, but you will be managing like who is playing on which team and ensuring that your raid comp or the players within your class are a sufficient number to meet raid comp requirements. But at the same time, you want to allow for people to take breaks from the game when they need to for real life reasons, because people who are failing out of school are not going to be playing the game very long if they're depending on that scholarship to stay in school, or their parents are going to take the keyboard away from them, or shit like that. So we have to give people time to take breaks from the game when necessary. And you should be communicating with people within your class in order to facilitate that. As far as general rules go for the guild, the best thing I can say about documenting or to deal with any problem is document anything that's going on. So if, like, let's say there's a ninja looting situation, or there is a, somebody is being like racially insensitive in guild chat, and this isn't like tattletaling, this isn't about egos or anything, this is just getting like information that can be used to come to some kind of conclusion to solve a problem. It's not about making a judgment on a player or anything like that. This is just to get to a point where we can help resolve the problem in the best way for the guild and for each party involved. You want to be approachable by players within the guild. You don't want to be the guy that is so caught up in his ego that people feel like they can't come to you, or if they do come to you, they don't feel like they can give you any suggestions or something like that. You want people to be able to hold you accountable as a class leader even if they're not the same rank as you, and you want players to be able to come with you with questions without being intimidated. Also, you can't just be an officer and not have any accountability. If you're being an asshole within raids, and then you just dismiss it, and you don't answer for that, or you don't apologize. Like let's say you call somebody out in a raid, and come to find out that person wasn't actually doing anything. You made a choice to call someone out in front of a large group of people. They could be embarrassed or whatever. If you don't approach them and apologize or whatever, then it could result in a situation where that player may be frustrated with you and not willing to work with you in the future. And it could result in a player wanting to leave the guild or leave the game. And that's ultimately something we want to avoid. You want to hold everyone accountable at all levels. So if I'm out of line as a guild leader, you guys should let me know. Because just because I'm running the guild doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. And it's the same way throughout the entirety of the guild. So going back to what I was saying about ninja looting, whatever, you have to hold these people accountable. You can't just brush it off because it's a guildie. If we allow that kind of behavior to proliferate through the guild, then we're going to have a bad time within the server community. And we don't want to make a bad name for ourselves within the server community because it makes a lot of things harder for us. It makes, we'll lose the ability to craft things between guilds. Like let's say there's a rare pattern another guild has, we'll lose the ability to use that player to craft that item, stuff like that. So we want to ensure that inside the guild and outside the guild, in raids and outside of raids, we're making a good name for ourselves. We want to, like I was kind of saying earlier, you want to cultivate an environment where people can learn and grow as players. We don't want to be somewhere where people just sit on their laurels or don't develop themselves. Stagnant players are fine if they're good players already, but most players have somewhere to grow or somewhere to increase their skills set. They don't know everything about every class. I don't know everything about every class. I've been playing the game for a long time, as have most of you. So there's always something to learn. There's always something to rethink. Even if you think you know everything, you probably don't. And you should cultivate an environment where even if you do know something, like somebody's going to do something wrong. Like let's say, for example, a player approached me and wants to play an elemental shaman. I know from experience that elemental shaman don't work in PvE. They just don't do good damage. So I gave him the tools to try it for himself, to see. Because he's not going to trust anyone more than himself, If you give him the ability to learn this himself, he won't argue with you anymore. And he'll see your point of view. So you always want to set people up to make the same mistakes you have, as long as they know that. Like, you should try to inform them of the potential outcome, and then let them make the decision themselves as much as possible. And that will encourage growth and trust with you as a class leader. Don't be afraid to give your opinion, even if it's not something that you think would be popular. It's normally when I promote somebody to an officer position or a loot council position, it's because I want to know why they think the way they do, why they disagree with me. I want to know. Don't just be the kind of guy who just stays silent the whole time, or only votes when his class comes up. Or I want to know what you think, because it's going to make me a better guild leader. It's going to make the guild better overall, because we're getting more input on decisions. It's just better in general for the guild. Always look for people to replace you. So that's not to say that you're not a good class leader, but maybe you should move up into more of an officer position, like higher than a class leader. Well, when you step up, somebody's gonna replace you, or we need somebody that can fulfill that role. So always be looking for talent, always be looking for people who can make the guild better, and so that we can give them the tools to do that. Does anybody have any questions so far? Any comments? Want to talk about any of these rules or any of these things I've brought up so far?
Not yet.
All right, I'll keep moving on then.
I like it.
All right. So for general dungeon and raid rules and policies, when a major recipe drops for the guild, it needs to be given to somebody we can trust, or it needs to be banked so that we can make the decision at a later point in time. So if the first Upper Blackrock Spire we ever run on the server happens and we get a Flask pattern to draw, a Flask of Titans pattern, it's a major progression item, right? It's probably not smart to get it learned within anybody in that group. So, because we don't know if these guys are going to be around a long time. However, let's say I was an alchemist, like as a guild leader, and I was in the raid, I would probably take the item myself and learn it right then and there, because I know as long as I'm running the guild, we're going to have a crafter for that item in the guild. Especially since it's going to be retail and there are going to be subscriptions tied to accounts, we're not going to have access to everybody's account like we are used to on private servers. So we need to make sure we're giving these patterns to the right people. If we have to give some kind of compensation, be it gold or whatever else, sometimes it's worth doing. It's going to be something we have to talk about, but it could be worth doing, and there's situations where it's relevant to do. It's when we go to build guild groups for dungeons, we want to avoid pugging as much as possible because we want to keep all the loot flowing within the guild. Even if if it's something you think would be for an off-spec or something, you still want to bring people and just keep all the loot in the guild. Pugging is good for recruitment purposes, but generally you want to avoid pugging when it comes to the early tiers of content, so that we keep gearing people up in pre-raid. When most people are farmed out, like around BWL and AQ40 plus, pugging is more beneficial to the guild because you get more new people grouping with you, and those are potential recruits if they're guildless or they're not happy with their guilds. And they try to build groups like don't stack all melee, don't stack all casters, try to build a well-rounded group that people aren't going to be competing with gear, or if they are competing with gear, come to some kind of like agreement, like if Turban drops, then pass on Briarwood Reed, or something like that. Like one person gets Briarwood Reed, the other person gets Turban, or some kind of something that keeps everybody happy. And then every time you group with a new player within the guild, try to teach them something new about the game or class if you know something, or you notice something they're doing wrong. Like you notice that their damage is really low as a rogue, maybe they're not using start attack macros and they probably should be, or things in general that'll increase in small increments, increase their skill or knowledge of the game. I'm not saying every dungeon has to be a class or lecture. For raid etiquette, one of the main things is that you should always try to keep raids quick. Like if there's something that's slowing the raid down, be it a loot council decision or swapping people in and out of raids, then be aware, like at all times. Be self-aware of how much time that you're taking to do something and how much it's slowing the raid down. I'm not saying stress out about this kind of stuff, but I'm saying like don't ever get in a situation where we're spending 10 minutes on a piece of loot making a decision, because you figure that an average boss encounter could take about 8 minutes. Well, you just wasted one boss encounter for the night worth of time on a one piece of gear. We always want to be pulling, so this goes for mostly for warriors, but also, anybody in the raid this applies to, but mostly warriors and healers. So warriors, your job is to create the pace of the raid, right? You should be chain pulling, you should be pushing content forward and never hit a stopping point. You should never be waiting on the raid leader to mark something for you. You should be never waiting on the raid leader to tell you to pull outside of very specific situations. Like, for example, one would be suppression room, where we may need like a specific timing of a patrol or something like that. But like in Molten Core, there's usually nothing to wait on besides like imp pulls, but that's it. You wait, you tell people to get in position. If they're not getting in position, you shouldn't have to wait for a raid leader to say anything. You should be always pushing forward. And that goes for healers and anybody. Like, you should be AFKing on trash. Majority of a raid instance is spent on trash. So the faster trash goes, the faster the raid clear is. So the more people AFK during trash, the slower the trash goes. The longer we spend in the instance, the less time we have to spend on more pressing factors like ranking or progression. As a class leader, you need to know who's on the bench at all times and know who can be replaced. So if, let's say, you have a really geared hunter who doesn't need anything from any of these bosses, well, let's pull in the undergeared hunter until the geared hunter needs a particular boss, and then rotate them in and out. And for just the normal players, they'll need to be ready to be pulled in. If they're not ready to be pulled in, then don't waste your time. This is something that you will be coordinating as a class leader. When raid invites go out, it'll likely, we're still discussing times, but so we're looking at 8:30 p.m. EST, right? Invites would be starting at 8:30, and then we would probably start first pull at 9. About. That's including like all world buffs. That's including like moving from a capital city to the raid instance, and buffing and everything. And then the first pull should happen before 9 p.m. EST. If people are still inside Dire Mall at the 45-minute mark, you're pushing raid back 15 minutes. So again, we lose boss attempts. And that's something we always have to eliminate. So if people are in battlegrounds, they're wrong. If people are in dungeons, they're wrong. People are not aware of when raid is. It's pretty easy in our guild. All you have to do is log in at the raid time, and there's something happening, right? Because 7-day-a-week raiding will result in just there's something happening, upper blocker expire or something else. If people are not aware of that, then they need to be made aware. Dire Mall buffs, when they're live in patch or in a phase 2, they have to be done before invites go out. Because what happens is people will, I haven't got my buff yet, so optimally tanks, people who are going to play warriors or druids who have tank gear will form these Dire Mall North tribute runs probably about an hour before invites go out. So 7:30 East Coast time. Or like the night before they log off, they'll do a Dire Mall North. And then whenever they get off work, they'll log in and they already have their buffs. If they're forming them like 30 minutes before invites, well, you might as well not even go for it. Or because if you have a wipe or something, then you're wasting everybody's time. It's about being in place on time and ready to push content. We only have 4 hours per night scheduled for raids. Of course, most raids are not going to take 4 hours, but we have 4 hours per night. If you're wasting them in Dire Mall, that could really hurt a progression if it happens on a weekly basis or a daily basis. For assignments, I expect you to swap assignments around in order to push people to grow and to learn different assignments. I understand, like, if you have somebody who you feel is incompetent or not ready for an assignment, repeating assignments over and over, and that's fine. But you should make sure that everybody understands that to not get comfortable with a single assignment and get used to doing the same thing every week. That'll result in a situation where we cannot progress if that player leaves, potentially. We want everybody to be aware. We don't want to have to teach somebody how to do a dungeon or a raid in the middle of raid time. Also have backup assignments in case somebody fails the job. So if you're assigning the new hunter to tranking and he's just not getting it, make sure all the other hunters are aware, like, to step up and trank. So, real quick, does anybody have any questions about any of that or any comments or ideas to add to it?
Well, I think the dungeon, if we go back to the dungeon etiquette, I think one of the things that maybe you might have mentioned later in the spreadsheet, but one of the realities that we're going to face, a lot of people are going to get geared out really quickly from dungeons. I think a lot of you guys have probably experienced that on servers that you play it on, like especially if you kind of rush to get 60 and you're playing a lot, shit like that. So it's going to take the contribution of a lot of people. Like if you figure we're going to run, the plan is to run multiple raid teams and stuff like that, you're looking at a huge core, well over 100 raiders, like way over that most likely, and it's going to take a lot of people to kind of maintain that. And something that we haven't really mentioned yet, but I'm sure people know and will be mentioned going forward, is that, like, when it comes to your standing in the guild and how you're kind of perceived, like what you do outside a raid is going to be just as important as what you do inside raid. And I think that kind of ties into the whole experience that we're doing here. Is we know the content is going to be pretty easy. I think like most people are kind of anticipating that, and we're doing different things to kind of deal with that, because the content might be too easy for some people, might push people away, but it's going to be the overall, like that's what he was talking about with the 7-day rating and stuff like that. There's always going to be something to do. So that contribution that, everyone's able to do so much in the guild, and that's going to count. Like if you want to further yourself in your portfolio, you're going to have to do more. And like we'll outline more like what that is. Obviously there's like certain things that you can do that help more than other things, running dungeons or farming materials and stuff like that. But just to go back to what I was saying with dungeons, it's just, we know there's this thing where you kind of run out of tanks, or you run out of healers, or you run out of people CC or whatever and stuff like that, and that's something we really want to work at. And I know in the past, like even myself and stuff, a lot of people, they just get into that comfort zone where they're established and they're waiting for the raids to show up and stuff like that, and that's really what we got to strive to avoid. And I think that's like the number one thing I want people to kind of get attached to, that idea. And like I know not everyone can play every day a week, and I'm not expecting that of everyone, but like I don't want people to think going in that we're just going to smash these raids and that's going to be it, because that's not the experience that we're looking for at all in this guild. And officers obviously need to know that, and that message has to be crystal clear for everyone.
Does anybody have anything else?
Not at the moment.
Alright, move on. Okay, for banning and kicking, so this is gonna happen, every so often. You're gonna have some bad apple or somebody that's toxic in the guild, something we don't want to have to deal with, or we don't feel like doesn't mesh with the guild or its philosophy. So we need to always keep reasons players are kicked logged. We need to know what led to the kick, as much documentation as we can get on the kick or ban, so that when in a year, if you're not playing in the game anymore, the new Warlock CL will know why that guy got kicked, and then we won't reinvite the guy. This is really important, just because, well, let's say somebody doxed somebody doxed another person in the guild, and then they find that that player's in the guild again. Well, you maybe just lost not only the guy who did the offense, but the person that was the victim. So it's not, because then they thought that the issue was handled, and then they lost trust in the officers after that. So I mean, bullying, harassment, doxing, just shit that shouldn't be tolerated anywhere, work, school, or hobbies, you know. Ninjing loot from the guild or from other guilds, or another situation could be if somebody has an alt in our guild but their main is in a competing horde guild or alliance guild, and they're feeding information such as they're taking guides from us or they're relaying information about world bosses. These things happen a lot, actually, and I'll go over it when we get to the world bosses. I'll go over it a little bit more in detail, but there are going to be secure channels that we vet people to add them to before they have access. Like, nobody will have access except for people we can vet, so that we can enforce this particular rule, and we can quickly eliminate, by process of elimination, determine who is feeding information to people. And this may sound paranoid, but if you're coming from, like, let's say you played EVE Online, for example, this is real shit. Like, this is a real problem in those kind of games. And it can be a problem in WoW, but to a lesser degree. But we want to avoid it in general, because if we can, it'll give us a major advantage in the game. Kickable offenses, repeated spam after warnings, use of racial slurs or other kinds of offensive language in public channels, guild chat on stream, misrepresenting guild in public, such as flaming people in public channels, griefing pugs, ninja looting, anything else that would be scummy. So, for example, if you join a molten core pug and you zoned in before everyone else to deliberately lock everybody out to a cleared instance, that would be considered pretty scummy, right? That would be something that we would not tolerate. Or if we stole somebody's ID that only had Cthulhu up, that would be considered really scummy. And these things have actually happened to me before in the past. Like, I've seen this actually happen, so that's why, from experience, I don't want to do this to anybody else. It's just not acceptable behavior, and we have to understand that this is going to be a server-based community. We have a name to make for ourselves. As far as who can ban and who can kick, it'd only be me or Frack or any other co-GM who will be allowed to ban. Kicking can be done on the spot for, like, divulging information to third parties, if you can see it happening and if you have documentation to back it up. You can do it right on the spot. You can kick for spamming or being racially insensitive or whatever in public channels. But document everything, like I said before, and likely, like, the spammers and the Dreadnought, I'm gonna mute you. So, some of those things we can talk to the player after they've been kicked and then re-invite them after we've resolved the problem. But, like, some of these things we can't tolerate because they're just being disrespectful to people who are supposed to hold a place of authority. It's not acceptable. There are going to be certain responsibilities that I'm going to expect players to have in the guild as class leaders. So the possible list of responsibilities you may have could be calendar management, world buff management, guild bank management, Scarab Lord questline management, attunement roster management, and that may be done on a roll-by-roll basis, like it probably will be. Loot tracking / attendance, add-on pack management, profession management, Discord management, ranking tracker. I'm going to go over each of these. So, calendar manager / scheduler, you're going to be creating raid events for your calendar. You're ensure that there are sufficient players / leadership to make the raid happen. And then you're going to ensure people that are aware of upcoming raids and times and whatever else could be happening. So a lot of times I'm gonna be part of this. I'm gonna say something, and then whatever I say, the calendar guy is just gonna write the calendar, and then change the guild message of the day, whatever. But sometimes, like for 20 mans and stuff like that, off day stuff, I may not be involved, or another co-GM may not be involved, or somebody, raid leader may not be involved. But basically, it's your job to ensure that the calendar is full and people are aware of when things are happening. Advertise it however you want to. We can change Discord up however you want to do it, or we could schedule things in a way that you think more people are going to be able to attend. There's a lot we can do with this, and this is kind of a position that has to be filled. It's probably going to be one per raid team. So if we have 3 raid teams, we'll have 3 guys doing this, and they'll be doing it for each of their raid teams. For world buff management, it'll be another one of those duties that you have 1 per team. You're gonna pick which player is gonna pop world buffs, and I'll actually have to go over in which order, what. So there are gonna be situations where we want to prioritize a tank to pop their Oni head. There are gonna be situations where we prioritize DPS, or, But you're gonna make sure it happens, and you're gonna be calling out who's got heads, who's got hearts. You're gonna be trying to figure out who got these items and recording them on a tracker, and then crossing them off the tracker whenever they've used the items. Guild bank management, we have to figure a lot of stuff about guild banks out still, but at a baseline, you're going to be managing consumables, raw materials, equipment within the guild, creating demand lists or farm lists for the guild so people know what to farm and donate. Generate gold income for the guild, so you're taking items from the guild bank, posting in the auction house, and making a turnaround profit. And then you're ensuring accountability when items are distributed, so you're making sure that somebody else who's part of the guild bank management team is not giving items at a discount to people, or overly discounted, or at a too cheap a price. You're basically trying to make sure that we're not losing gold on our investment. Scareboard manager, this is probably going to go to the first person, or probably the first 1 to 3 people who are going to have scareboard in the guild. They're going to be managing anybody who's interested in the quest line, and they're going to be determining who is going to get the title. So what you do is you have to track the status of each player and where they're at on the line, and then there's some more things that have to be fleshed out with it, but you want to always veto. You'll have the ability to veto decisions that could be made that would slow us down. For example, would be, as a Scarab Lord guy, that we need to do one more Monk Core in order to a single Monk Core to get another Scarab Lord, versus not doing Monk Core that week, which would prevent us from doing it. And I say something like, hey, we're going to split into 2 20-man raids, and we're going to go do Zogrubs. Well, maybe it would be better to just do Monk Core if we can get another skateboard out of it. That's kind of a rough example, but that would be the kind of thing that you would be deciding. Attunement core tracker. So this is, every class leader is going to have this responsibility. There's going to be a spreadsheet that tracks the status of each attunement and where each raider's at on there. In order to get core rank, you'll need to have completed all your attunements, get all your pre-raid gear all enchanted, all resist sets, good attendance. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be good enough that you're actually raiding. and then merit. So if you feel like that player is ready for core, then you promote them. And this will be the responsibility of every class leader to do for each raid team. Attendance loot tracker. This is gonna probably rotate like on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly race basis. So it's just to it's just tracking whenever an item drops so that we're accountable for where loot decisions are made. So if we realize like, oh shit, this druid has gotten every piece of gear so far in AQ40, well, unless you guys have really good memories, the only way to do that would be to write it down. And hopefully we have an add-on that just tracks like when the item dropped, who got it, what time it dropped, stuff like that, and we can just copy and paste it from the add-on to the spreadsheet. Hopefully, but otherwise it's kind of the admin type shit that's kind of eats up your day as an officer. Add-on pack manager, this guy just needs to be up to date with different UI elements and figure out what the best things are for the guild. Like the basic stuff like boss mods and threat meters, but additionally like anything you feel like would help a progression. So I don't know what's going to be like what they're going to come up with for classic, but I'm sure like if you're interested in this particular job that you'll find something that's good for the guild. And keep it up to date on at least every month. Make sure it's like the most recent version of add-on and stuff like that if there's new versions of DBM or whatever available. Profession management. We have to keep track of who owns what pattern because we're going to be such a big guild. Who has what pattern and if they're in the guild or not, and what patterns we still have to farm in the world or what reputations we need to grind to get one of these patterns. It doesn't have to be done with every pattern in the game, but just the ones that are important for progression. Like for example, I don't really expect people to get Taurian Brotherhood rep to get like 22 intellect weapon or something like that, but maybe some people want that, but for progression, 15 agi to weapon is probably more important. So like that. Or like 9 strength to bracers is like a notorious enchant that's hard to farm. Crusader, whatever. And it'll be on you to inform people who have those professions to get people to farm them. Additionally, you'll probably be making a big say on who gets like raid pattern drops. But that's more to come on that. Discord manager, so people who have a lot of experience with managing Discord, like making channels look nice or whatever, like aesthetically pleasing and information easy to find. I mean, we have a lot of channels on this Discord because there's a lot of information, but I'm trying to make it as compact and easy to digest as possible. But I'm sure there are people who are talented in that arena, and they'll have better things to say and better takes on how to do it. Currently, I'm doing it by myself, but I'm sure there are people that are better at it than me. Ranking manager. Now, this is going to be my PvP guy. So you're going to be managing the entire faction with the rankers. And now, I don't know how it's going to play out because we don't know how big the servers are going to be. They said something like each layer is going to be 3,000 people, whatever. And if there's 3 layers of 3,000 people, that's a lot of people to figure out, right? If you cut it in half, and that's half your faction, or that's half the server, it's 4,500 people for your faction. That's a lot of people to keep track of for ranking. But like more directly, you're going to be organizing gang squads / pre-made teams and tracking people's rank progress within the guild. There are going to be add-ons that'll help you with this stuff, but it'll be your job to decide these things and even outside a guild. And probably mostly outside the guild, because even though we're going to be probably the biggest guild on whatever server we roll on, we will not be the only guild ranking. And I guarantee that. also it's your job to teach people about ranking and the honor system in general and what it takes. So you don't have people who think, oh yeah, I'll casually get rank 14 just playing 4 hours a day, or something like that. You prevent that kind of situation from happening, and you keep expectations realistic. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about any of like the secondary duties or jobs that we'll have as class leaders and officers? I know this shit's really fucking dry to talk about, but if anybody has any ideas or questions or complaints about any of these things, everything I'm reading is in a PowerPoint if you're not looking at it, and it's located in the retail or in the Murmur News channel, I think. Yeah, Murmur. No, I'm sorry, in the Classical Launch channel under officer guidelines. So if nobody has anything else, I will move to Glue Council etiquette. Okay, so this is gonna be like one of the main things you're gonna be doing on Glue Council. One of the main problems, or a major problem that could really disrupt our ability to run a Glue Council, is collusion, and that could be anything from bribery to cliquing of officers within the council. So I'm really against cliquing. So like people in the past in our guilds have broken off and made private discords where they hang out instead of hanging out in the main guild discord, and that hurts the guild, because you're basically making a guild or within a guild. You're excluding people, and I understand you might not like everybody and you might not want to hang out with everybody, and that's fine. But when it can devolve into the point where you're making decisions basically just for your friends, and that's when guilds with Loot Council kind of fall apart. This is a merit-based loot system. This is not a loot system that you're awarding people items based on just solely attendance. This is stuff that you want people to be progressing their characters outside of raids, and you want to be rewarding them for that. So if you're accepting gold or consumables or any kind of PayPal or anything like that, you're hurting the guild, and you're going to hurt our long-term ability to progress the guild. I understand that sometimes people will become romantically engaged with other people in the guild, and that's fine. But just because it's a conflict of interest, if two officers decide that they really like each other and they want to start dating, then it would be good if one of you stepped down. I understand that some people are just going to keep it private if that happens, but at least you should consider this, and I hope you guys could step up and let me know, and we can make a decision together about what the best course of action is. Again, that's like really personal, and I understand that some people might not be comfortable with that, but the end goal, the plan is to make the best guild that we can. So we just don't want to have any issues that could, people could question why we're making certain decisions. Itemization knowledge. So I know a lot of, there's several of you who don't have vanilla knowledge. You don't know about the game, you don't know about, but you play vanilla, but you don't know about like where every item should go, or you're playing a class you didn't play in vanilla or whatever. Well, it's your job from here until class launch and beyond to learn itemization and know where items should go and make, so you can make the best decision. Ideally, you know where every item goes before it ever drops. This will speed up raids, like I was talking about earlier. We don't have to make 10-minute loot council decisions because every item should be decided already. You need to be learning itemization of anybody who shares a role with you. So warlocks need to learn mage itemization and shadow priest itemization. You should know, like at a baseline, I would suggest you work backwards. You should know what the best item in the game is for every slot for every class within your role. So if I'm a mage, I know that my best belt in the game is Cthulhu belt, or and before Cthulhu belt, it's the Molten Core belt, and I don't want tier 3 at all. So then when we get to Nax, we're voting on tier 3 belt. We don't give it to mages. We give it to warlocks and we give it to priests. We don't run into those problems that some guilds are going to have because they don't know itemization in the game. You need to explain to players why an item is bad. Why an item is bad. So, Quick Strike Ring looks really good for any melee, right? It's got like 10 strength, some attack power, crit, and some stamina on it. Well, a rogue looks at that ring and they're like, oh, it's better than my, trash ring that I used while I was leveling because it's a first Molten Core raid. I want that item. Well, if you know rogue itemization, there are better rings available later on. When Dire Maul comes out, there's a better ring available. When AK-40 comes out, there's a better ring available. BWL comes out, there's a better ring available that is way more available. Like, way more easy to obtain. So, you let that rogue know, hey, this is a warrior item. We don't take this item unless nobody else needs it. And you explain why, and you explain how the stats break down, and you explain what items he can expect to get. And this is something like that's core to being a class leader. And again, you want to be making decisions based on Nax progression. So, or you don't want to be giving a warlock a mana igniting cord if they just get tier 2 and replace it the next phase. Alright, so we'll move on to voting. So you want to include as many factors as possible. I cannot say like only include a certain number of factors. There are infinite number of factors that could go into a council decision. And it's on you to determine what you think is most important. That's why you've been given the power to vote. So you should kind of, a recommendation by me would be to make like have each player within your class or role have like a wish list of what items they want. Because not all items just fit into an objective bubble of this item is the best item for this class. Some items are like two-handers or PvP-oriented items or like side grade type items. You need to know what they want. If you know what they want, you can make them happy when you give them what they want. If you don't know what they want, then there's situations where they didn't communicate with you, you didn't communicate with them, and they could be unhappy if they see the item that they wanted go to someone that didn't actually want it and it's just going to sit in their bank. So again, communication is key to talk to your guys when you're a class leader. When you go to an instance, you should have multiple ideas of where items should go before it ever drops. So if you know that you have like two guys, they both need rings and they both need necks. Well, when a neck drops, you give the neck to one guy, you give the ring to the other guy. And then the next week, same exact items drop, well, you do it in reverse. And it's easy to do that way. And you can take that concept and you can spread loot out in a similar fashion. So for another example would be for tier 1 shaman, I like to go back and forth on two people until both of them are APs, because that set bonus is actually really good for certain fights. But when there are like the third copy of an item drops, I'll give it to the next two people that will be designated for those tier 1 slots until every shaman has all the set. Doing that kind of stuff is a good idea at times to keep people happy, and as long as you're telling them beforehand that that's the plan, most people will be on board with it and they'll understand why you're doing it that way. But again, if there's no communication, that's where Loot Council kind of falls apart. You should know the weight of the item, like how valuable. A DFT is much different than a Jam Gabar. Both melee trinkets, one is much more rare, much more valuable than the other. And then lastly, you want to ensure that the item will actually get used by the player. If the item is just going to end up in somebody's bank, let's give it to a new guy or something instead. Like if the guy's just going to vendor it, like it's not worth giving it to him. Ask him how much they really want something. Like if you're like, I don't think he actually wants this, he's just putting in because it dropped. Some people are more greedy, some people are not so greedy, but you kind of have to make that judgment call and ask him about it. Does anybody have any questions about Loot Council?
Yeah, Kratos, are you going to be looking for kind of like an add-on like what we used on Primal, or are we just going to kind of go to the default talk it out?
It'll probably start off as like talking until we find something.
Okay.
If we can find something off the bat, then that's perfect. Anybody else? Okay. All right, cool. So let's talk about professions. So engineering. If you've been part of the private server meta for a while, you'll know that everybody needs engineering. It's just the best profession available. It's like a lot of people who remember retail can remember the meta that everybody had leatherworking in the Burning Crusade. It's basically the same thing. Everybody needs engineering. I know this may be new information for some people, but it's the only profession that gives a rate benefit outside of tailoring for caster classes. There's no other profession that gives us direct rate benefit. Every other profession has something that can be crafted by somebody else. So I can have an armor smithing alt to craft all of my fire resist gear. Does not have to be a main character that actually raids progression content. I can make all my flasks on alt character. I can make all my tailoring items, all my, none of these professions do anything within a raid. The main things that, like, outside of the 3 things I've listed on this PowerPoint slide is you can get things like resist gear made that are better than anything else available for those slots. You can teleporters will just decrease the rate, decrease potential world movement time, especially if we're trying to tackle world bosses, stuff like that. Try to get from Nax to AK-40, that can take up to 20 minutes sometimes if you're running there by boat. This is, they're things that'll just make the raid way better. Jumper cables, imagine wiping and you don't have any soul stones up, or onks. Well, the hunter that was feigned death in the corner will just pop up and throw a jumper cable, and guess what? You just had wipe recovery and you don't have to re-clear any trash now. So, I would say to heavily advocate for people to go engineering. Heavily push people towards engineering. I know not everybody's going to do it, but we want to have as many people engineering before Phase 3 in BWL releases. It's going to be a major factor in BWL progression and how fast we clear the instance. Also, if people are concerned with making money, there are non-professional ways to make gold, and they're actually really efficient. Some classes are really struggle with that, but it's heavily recommended that you have alts for making gold, like hunters or mages, by the time Phase 3 is available. It's a long time from now. Of course, there's again, this guild allows casuals within it. I know not everybody's going to have engineering, but if people want to be taken seriously in the guild, if you want to be getting like Nef tiers, like the first Nef tier, the first DFT, the first Stylines, you better have engineering. You better have these professions because they're going to affect progression in such a way. For warlocks, shadow priests, mage professions, there's 2 routes to do it. You can go from Route 1. Route 1 would be, well, honestly, Route 1 would be to just level engineering mining at launch, and then drop mining and level tailoring later. The other way to do it is to level tailoring, skinning, or mining at launch. Make bags for money at launch. This is more for people playing right at day one of launch. And then drop skinning and pick up mining after you made a decent amount of money. And then farm materials, get engineering, then get engineering. You can drop tailoring after you've replaced Bloodvine in phase 6 about. Most players will not do this until the very end of vanilla. So, Warlocks, Shadow Priests, and Mages are expected to have tailoring engineering. Holy Priests, there's 2 ways to do it. The hardcore route is to level tailoring, skinning at launch, make bags to get your mount, find a truth faith investments pattern and craft it, drop tailoring, skinning for engineering and mining, and then you can drop mining at a later point. So truth faith investments is a really good chess piece. It's arguably best in slot until tier 3. Some people consider it to be equivalent to tier 2, slightly worse than tier 2, or slightly better than tier 2. And then there are robes in AQ40 that are either side grade, or it really depends on how you like your itemization. But let's just make the story short. When you learn the pattern, the item is BOP, does not require tailoring, so you can drop tailoring after you've crafted the item. So that allows you to swap to engineering. If you find that before phase 3, that would be optimal. That's a really rare pattern, hard to come by, but alright, absolutely. That's fine, Bodio, don't worry about it. This is being recorded, so if you miss something, you can catch it later. And then we'll meet up with you Monday, I think, for what we were gonna do, our interview. For early levelers, hunters, mages, warlocks, and anybody else's early leveler, like I'm talking about the top 50 highest levels on the server at launch. It would be recommended that you grind charms for Whirlwind Axe for your favorite warrior, whoever it is. So if I'm really like this one tank that I'm friends with, I'll farm him charms so that when he gets to 30, he can go straight into having this axe that's going to carry him all the way up to 50. And it'll speed up his leveling time by a substantial amount. And then you'll have a tank at 60, way before everyone else.
The fire elementals are actually pretty good to grind off of as a...
So, yeah, when you're in your like level 42 bracket and the warrior's stuck in like probably around 28 at that time, could be a little bit higher, maybe the 35 range. Those are the kind of items that you might want to farm. Also, early on, if you're a mage, one of these fast leveling classes, if you find some time where you're stuck without quests, grinding elemental fire, stuff like that, that's going to help our first molten core clear, it's advisable. Additionally, keep an eye on limited vendor items. Like there's certain patterns that have a limited supply and need to be camped in order to grab them up. One, like I have 3 lists in the PowerPoint. Devil Sword Gloves pattern, really, really good pre-bis for any melee or hunter. Delicate Arcanite Converter is going to be key for people who are going to be leveling engineering. And Rune Arcanite Rod is going to be key for if we get any patterns from Molten Core to drop, that rod is required to enchant anything. So if we get a healing to weapon or spell damage to weapon, we're going to probably be the only people on the server, but we don't have any Arcanite Rod, so it'll suck. There are a lot of other examples of this, but these are the main ones. Phase 1, there's no honor grind, but everybody who plans to be a class leader and officer needs to become familiar with Molten Core and Ixia. And the reason is because you guys are going to need to be pushing people to get these done. If we're waiting on people to get attunements done, then we're going to be fucked. if we're waiting on people to get quintessences, we're not getting any kind of server first. Any kind of we're not acting like a hardcore guild if we're not getting these things done early on and encouraging people to get them done.
Quick question,
Go ahead.
because we're moving on to raids at the moment. So with professions, you're talking about wanting everybody at engineering or to move through a certain way. Are you considering having at least one of the warriors or somebody go blacksmithing for all the fire resist gear and stuff like that? And that's what they're gonna stay for even future warriors or tanks or whatever. This is something that's been thought.
Yeah, so it's likely that the guy who's going to be an armor smith is going to be an engineer armor smith. So he's going to start with the blacksmithing, and then we're going to rush his blacksmithing all the way up, his armor smithing done, and then he has until Blackwing Lair comes out to level engineering. Like, you can start with whatever professions you want. I don't care what you have until Blackwing Lair. When Blackwing Lair comes out, that's when you should really have engineering.
Alright, cool.
Okay, so moving on to raids. Did anybody else have any questions about professions, by the way? Okay. So phase 1, there's no PvP. Doesn't matter. People who are gonna level to 60 quickly need to focus on a few things. So BRD, you want to get your molten core attunement done as soon as you are doing BRD for the first time, or as early as possible, and so that you can start moving more and more people through to get attuned. Again, we're not gonna rush people to get to 60. We don't want to burn people out on leveling. But there no doubt will be people who do that anyway. So for those people, they're probably going to be in the first molten core clear. These are the kind of things you need to be aware of, and these are our plans for phase 1. Upper Black Arc Spire will probably be run every night outside of when we're doing molten core, because there's no PvP to do. It's either probably farming, 5 mains, or Upper Black Arc Spire. That's all we got on the table. It's highly important that every officer, every class leader has an Upper Black Arc Spire key as soon as they can, so we can make sure that there are multiple runs going at all times. And we're not dependent on a single player to have a key. He doesn't log in, then we can't do a run. If you're in a full guild group, unless another player is closer to finishing the key, you have priority on gemstones to drop. So the key is generated from getting these 3 gemstones from Lower Black Arc Spire. You combine them through a quest, and then you can enter Upper Black Arc Spire. Until then, you cannot enter Upper Black Arc Spire. You have to do Lowers, which conveniently is where you're going to start your Onyxia chain, so you're going to do both at the same time. We will need 8 players that have killed Emberseer for the Quintessence quest line before we step into Molten Core for the first time. So this is talking about the Quintessence quest chain, which we have to have 8 people that have this done, or we're not going to be able to summon Rag. Molten Core. So everybody should start their Quintessence quest line at 55. There's 2 quests that start. There's one that goes to EPL and one that goes to Silithus. The quest line is picked up in Ashara. You can look this up after. Additionally, you have 5 levels to 60, so if you've completed these quests, Hunters, Mages, and Warlocks, and whoever else is a really early leveler and can do it efficiently, should be farming Earth Elementals in Silithus for rep until they can hit, Honored. When you're Honored, then you don't have to, you basically can coast. All you have to do is show up for raids. But until we have people who are Honored, we won't be able to summon Rag or Majordomo. We need 8 people to get this done. Until that point, pretty much nothing else matters. We need people to get Upper Black Arc Spire keys and stuff like that, but the first thing that needs to happen is Quintessence chains. like the very first thing as you hit 55, you should be working on your quintessence chain. As soon as we have a raid team that can, of about 25 plus people, we'll start probably doing trash in Molten Core for rep and loot, or if it's around raid time. Otherwise, we'll probably be doing Upper Blocker Expire, which is a better use of time and players, or farming a rep with Hydrax or whatever. We will have to clear bosses out of a typical raid order in order to summon Domo and Rag the first week. So we'll have to start with when you zone in the instance, we'll have to go to the right. We'll have to skip Lucifron and Magma Dart first. And we'll have to do some shenanigans where we send people to Ashara, turn in quests, get summoned back. It'll really slow the raid down the first Molten Core. It'll probably add 2 hours at least to what would normally be a normal clear. We likely won't have so many consumables, so that first week of raiding will be really rough, and I highly suggest if you have any remaining days off to take, you try to schedule them on short notice the week we're trying to clear Molten Core, because it's probably going to be like a 4-day thing. It's going to be a long 4 days. During the majority of Phase 1 for Nixia, most players should have their Hearthstone set to Kargath. This will speed up attunement process and raiding. Players will have to travel several zones to kill named elites. Ideally, these mages can pre-position while players are traveling the world for portals. So mages are going to play a major role, getting people attuned to Nixia really quickly. But it's going to be a long chain. Since we're Horde, we don't have the benefit of just being able to do BRD and be done. BRD and Upper Blocker Expire and be done. But Nixia will come after Molten Core for progression. Like, we will focus solely on Molten Core at launch. Of course, people should be doing their Nixia chain while they farm Upper Blocker Expire on off nights. But by that point in time, we should have a few consumables saved up for our attempts. We will likely stack majority range DPS for the initial kill, just to ensure that she comes down in phase and we don't have to worry about melee getting knocked into whelp caves and stupid shit like that. When we loot the boss, the first kill, we'll probably do something cheesy where we'll loot all the gold to myself, and then we'll use that to jumpstart the guild bank and start buying up like BOEs on the auction house for progression. Phase 1 farming, pre-Molten Core clear. Pre-raid, ideally you have as much as you can for the first clears of Molten Core and Nixia, but you're probably going to be stuck with whatever you're leveling with when you first zone in. Majority of players will be. Try to have as many pre-biz items in your dungeoning and leveling routes as you can while not sacrificing speed if you're one of those hardcore fast levelers. But if you're taking your time, just try to farm out your pre-raid as best you can while you level. There are some quests and stuff you can do, some trinkets and some items that are really close to pre-biz, so try to have those by the time you hit 60. So as soon as you hit 60, you can just zone into a raid. Consumables, whoever hits 60, the first 60 should just be farming like Elemental Fire, Dream Foil, herbs, whatever we can. We want as many fire protection potions as we can at launch. They're going to be so key to progression that there's pretty much nothing else that you should be doing unless you can form 5 main groups. People who can provide these consumables will be given loot rewards. Like, people who are putting all this extra effort in at launch will be rewarded for it. These are going to be the guys who are going to get the big pieces of loot when they drop, at least the first few weeks. Farming post first Molten Core clear. Players should be working towards Core Rager rank by farming pre-raid and attuning to Nixia's Lair and Molten Core. Players should be farming consumables, gold, raw materials. Consuming will be rewarded and encouraged during phase 1, but light consuming is going to be expected after the first few weeks of clearing tier 1. We'll make a formal announcement of when we feel the market is stabilized to support using consumables on a consistent basis, and when we start expecting people to use them on a consistent basis. Early vanilla will be the time where raw materials, consumables, BOE equipment, and patterns will be the absolute cheapest. Gold will have its strongest buying power, so it's highly recommended that players farm for future phases of progression during this point in time. Because if you're playing on ranking or we're rating, 4 or 5 raid instances, you're not gonna have as much time to farm. You're not gonna have much free time, and then whatever else is happening to you in real life is gonna affect you in the game. So take advantage of the time when you have it. Players should also level alts in phase 1 during the low raid time commitment of Molten Core and Nixia. So if you plan on having alts, it's the time to do it. Phase 1 second raid lockout. Pending recruitment and other key factors, we will try to establish a second raid team prior to phase 2. If we have to, we'll push that back to phase 3. Team 2 will probably start out as a pug and then grow as we recruit. Though I expect to launch with a large number of people, I don't expect everybody to stick around. So it's likely we have to recruit in game. We will reserve legendaries, patterns, and raw materials for the main guild in that pug, and we'll recruit solid people we find in that pug to the guild if possible. Team 2 will have autonomy to run raids as they wish. They will adhere to guild guidelines, rules, the council policy. So I may be on the second team. I may not be on the second team. Like, whoever's running that team, it's your team. You run it how you want to. But you still need to have a basis in what the guild's values are and kind of policies are so that people aren't completely taken aback by the way you're doing things. But you should have freedom to do the thing, like run the raid as you want to. We will try to split talent evenly between the raid teams. So when we do start pugging, they're probably going to be painful at first. And we're going to be splitting our talent as much as possible so that we have 2 evenly skilled teams. At this point, it shouldn't be a big fucking deal to have a slower Molten Core raid because it's going to be the only content available. But we don't want to set either team up for failure either. Phase 2, we have Darmal, Azurgos, Kazak, and Honor Kill ranking. From launch of Darmal, we expect players to start ranking Darmal North for buffs prior to raids. You must become familiar with this process prior to phase 2. And that's a guild-wide thing. Everybody needs to know how to get Darmal North buffs and do a tribute run before that patch ever comes out. Because the first raid, we're going to be expecting people to get it, if they can. Of course, some tuning may be off and people may not be used to it or whatever. It may take longer than normal, but prior to phase 2, we'll have World Boss Scouting alts parked at all boss locations, and that's going to be on anybody, but it'll likely fall on an officer. But to do this, but you just park a level 1 alt at each location, or you park level 20 Warlocks at these locations. You get multiple players with level 20 Warlocks and we can summon a whole raid out there really quickly, and we can move around the world really quickly to get bosses before other people. PvP teams will start camping hotspots based on enemy faction activity, such as Darmal, Menethil Harbor, Blackrock Mountain. Anybody who's made themselves known to be interested in ranking must know how the honor system works prior to phase 2. This is really key to getting everybody ranked up as fast as possible who wants to rank. In order to rank the guild as fast as possible, PvP leader will be promoted to coordinate ranking for the entire faction. So there's gonna be class leaders, there's gonna be a PvP leader, and then there's gonna be officers, likely. PvP leader will have a vote on Loot Council, and they'll make decisions based on PvP activity of their players. So they will advocate for the rank 10 warrior to get an ash candy over the rank 2 warrior who never does never PvPs or does battlegrounds or anything. Mages will have level 55 water as soon as possible in Dire Maul releases. We'll teach people how to farm gold in Dire Maul so they can become self-sustaining and not rely on professions. We will teach Dire Maul North tribute runs for buff purposes as fast as possible and make it a daily ritual to clear the instance before invites go out. So like I said, make sure we have Dire Maul North buffs before invites go out. Don't be caught in a raid when we're trying to invite people. Azure Ghost Kazak, ensure raiders have the following consumables: Arcane Protection Potions, Free Action Potions, Goblin Sapper Charges, Shout Protection Potions, Demon Slaying Elixir, Offhands with Demon Slaying Enchanted at a minimum for melee, Frost Protection Potions. These are all items that are going to make world bosses really easy, and if we're contesting world bosses, especially on the first kills of them, it's going to take this much effort. And then we have to, of course, ensure players are informed about every encounter before we ever touch it. We will have hourly checks on boss spawn status. So we'll have a channel that's dedicated to this. It's a secure channel that only trusted players have access to. And we'll be asking like, hey, update. And the only time you ever talk about world bosses is in this designated channel. You'll never talk about them in guild chat. You'll never talk about them in /say. You'll never talk about them in raid chat. You'll never talk about them otherwise. Will we use code words such as login for blue elixir or something like that? And like, yeah, people can figure it out, but they'll get more and more subtle as time goes on. People get the picture. But that's the kind of culture we need for Moat. If people stream, you want to kill the stream before we start moving. As soon as the announcement goes out, you kill the stream. I know this might suck for people who want to do that as a hobby or whatever, but this is the best way to do things. You can turn on the stream once like we have people contesting it, but it's probably still not a good idea.
They didn't like it when I streamed in the cartel either.
If you stream, like if we're doing some kind of cartel shit, I don't care if you stream. But for world bosses, it's a little bit different. Does anybody have any questions over kind of our plans for phase 1 and 2?
Is there a priority in terms of first level 60s in terms of grinding? Like, is it better for us to be pushing Essence of Earth for Hydraxian rep, or I'm assuming that would be most important?
It is for at least the first 8 people, but we want more than 8 people just in case those guys can't make raid or whatever.
Your Uber's key is going to be really important. If you're like a warrior, or you're a feral druid or something like that, one of the first things you're going to want to do is just non-stop. And farming Ubers is going to be like early on. That's a big deal.
I mean, there's a pretty good chance I'll play 48 hours straight at launch, so I'd like to have a pretty good understanding of what the priority list is.
It's going to be based on what class you are. So like he was saying, a tank probably needs to be an Elbers. Hunters and mages probably need to be farming their Hydraxian rep, and basically any DPS that can kill his mobs efficiently. Tanks are not going to kill them very efficiently. Healers are not going to kill them efficiently. So it's going to be on DPS to really do it. Of course, eventually everybody should have it, and it's going to be a requirement to make the core rank. But this is what I advocate for, and this is what I suggest. But there are so many things that are going to be going on as soon as we hit 60 because of all the content that's going to be available, because it's 1.12. We need, like, quintessences, we just will not be able to kill. We will not even be able to attempt those 2 bosses if we don't have enough people with quintessences. And every time I roll a guild on a new vanilla server, what ends up happening is nobody fucking farms it. So it is something you have to foot stomp and get people to do, because they just will not farm that rep. They want to be in dungeons, they want to be PvPing, they don't take it seriously. Like, they don't understand how vital and how important that first week at 60 is.
Is it viable to do that in a? I don't know if you can still get rep in a raid group for that situation or no.
The rep doesn't change.
I mean, so theoretically we could put it in a raid and just bust it down, right?
Yeah, but it would make more sense if you were grinding from 55 to 57 to honored, you know, as a hunter. Because you're not doing shit anyway. You're not going to have a dungeon when you hit 60. You're not going to have, you know, mages aren't. Like those fast leveling classes, those people who are going to be super grinding to 60.
I meant that group of people when I referred to a large group, assuming they all kind of level at roughly the same pace.
Right, but I don't know how it's going to work, but whenever they have like, so on some servers, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, but when you're in a raid, sometimes rep gets cut down. So maybe a 5-man group would be best, but maybe not a
Right.
raid. I don't know.
I was thinking something like, you know, you hit, you know, you're one of the classes that's optimal for it. You hit, you know, 55, and you're gonna go there. You drop into a dedicated Discord server, or excuse me, a Discord channel that says, "Hey, I'm going there. I'm there." You know, and then as people get there, they drop down in there, and you quickly form a group to farm as quick as possible.
Right. I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to have people that are on the same page as you, and you're just going to have to pull them. You're going to have to tell them, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing this quest. Hey, come do your quintessence chain. Come do your Hydraxian chain instead.
Sure.
But yeah, I agree. Like, I think that works for like Upper Blackrock Spire and stuff like that. I think that's a good idea, or dungeons. But that is going to be like a one-time thing that's really going to be important to get Hydrax rep. Anixia is going to be probably in a similar situation where it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and people are not going to actively pursue it unless they know better. And we're going to have to push people to get it done. Molt Core 2, just basically people just do it because they clear a BRD. They don't really have to worry about any of that shit. But this is pretty much it for the meeting. If anybody else has any questions or they want to talk about anything, feel free to bring it up.
Yeah, can we just go through and say, like, who we are and what class we plan on playing?
Yeah, sure. I was gonna do promotes and stuff too, actually.
I'll go first. My name's Tarako and I'll be playing Rogue.
And I'll go second. My name's Angus. I'll be going Protection War.
Bow Basher. I'll be going Protection Warrior.
I'm Shift Core. I'll also be a rogue.
I'm gonna touch your butt.
Hey, my name's Ash, and I'm gonna be playing a Warlock.
My name's Whammy, and I'll be a hunter and a tank and a
We all know Kurthos, Protection Warrior.
Sometimes Shaman.
Somebody with a Shaman, yeah.
There are a lot of officers that aren't here. Dan Kills, I don't think has a mic, maybe? Or he's muted?
He lights up.
I heard him.
Yeah, I heard you now. Dan Kills. Where are you?
I'm in California.
What class are you gonna play?
Oh, priest.
Okay, there you go. That's all the class leaders I think that applied so far. There's some people who that we haven't gotten to interviews yet, and it's gonna come over the next few weeks, definitely before launch. So don't get angsty or like anxious about it. It's more of like not having a time where me and Fred can be online at the same time to have the interview when you're around. So don't take it personally or anything like that. I am gonna go ahead and promote Shift Core and Tarako. And who else is here? And Whammy now. And then we gotta get to some other people's class leader meetings before we decide anything else.
Thanks.
Is there 8 class leaders, or is there more than one for some class?
There's gonna be more than one for some because they're gonna be on different raid teams.
Self-sufficient.
I read over the class leader application myself. One of the options was it's either a role or like a specific class. Are there going to be class leaders specifically, like for my example, a warrior, or is it just going to be like a tank class leader? I know that the primary tank is warrior, but I'm just saying like a role, like a DPS class leader, like melee range. Like how is it going to be split up essentially?
Notion Storm,
Like I know nowadays.
yeah, I'm taking people
there's
I've played
more
with
of
in the
a
past and people I've never played
role-based
with.
class leader than there is a. Well, not even really a class leader, it's just a role leader.
It depends. Like it depends on a case by case basis. Like there's only probably gonna be one feral druid, so yeah, he's gonna do the class leader himself. No, he's gonna be underneath the other tanks, like the prot warrior class leader, or
Yeah.
I mean like don't get caught up too much in like the structure of it. If you can help somebody improve, it doesn't matter who you're class leader of. Do it.
Yeah. I was mainly just wondering if it was similar to systems you've done in the past, or if it's gonna be something new.
He's talking about when we had a DPS class lead. That was
Yeah,
DPS
like because I
overall.
know on Primal we did it similar to what you're describing,
Well, yeah. So there may be a situation where Ash is a Warlock CL, but he's also overseeing casters. This is going to happen. It depends on if we have vacancies, and it depends if we have enough manning in those positions.
Okay.
Mass recruiting in all the starting zones.
That's what I want to do if I can log in. Is there any other questions?
I meant day one, like just spam recruit people. Or are you trying to?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna have spam messages. They're gonna be maybe if I see like a guildless warlock or guildless shaman or something like that, and I know we lack them, I might do like a ninja invite on somebody, but it's not gonna be a common occurrence.
What are your thoughts on intentionally running 4-man guild dungeon groups or leaving an intentional spot blank in a raid comp to try and purposefully recruit someone new, just on the grounds that
Yeah, I mean,
need one more for a dungeon?
that's
That sort of
fine. That's fine, especially if it fits better for like loot drops. I can't even log into this just says I don't know.
So, like in the past, one of our ways of recruiting people has always just been running bugs, and like if you pick up on someone who's doing something well, you just kind of gather them into the guild. And like Trey can tell you that Malt Forge and stuff like these Malt Forge is bullshit. Kind of trying in some ways so people can do it. You knew they were somewhat competent, so I mean,
Right, alt raids are a perfect place to pick up actually competent mains who may not have a home or may be somewhere that they could be doing better.
I
obviously,
thought
like, early on, I think Malt Forge is going to kind of be like, whenever you have the bot reality is you're just gonna kind of be in there. Like, as much as you want to like have it structured and be prepared, you're just gonna kind of end up there when people are ready. So for the first couple clears, we're just gonna do our thing, and then I think after the fact, there's gonna be more room for, you know, bringing people through and stuff like that.
So let's say a situation where we are. Do we know if Molten Core is coming out like the very first week that it?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's available day one.
Okay. So a situation where we've got enough people to run it at 60 on say a Sunday or a Monday before, you know, reset. Do we think it's a good idea to try to bull our way there and just pick up whoever's level 60 and just say, come on?
Depends. I'm not gonna pick up a bunch of rogues that are like I'm not going to bring in people that we don't need, right? If we need like warlocks or we need shaman or we need priests, we need, you know, a certain class that we lack in the raid comp. Yes, I'm willing to do that. I'm not going to forsake our progression.
Well, I mean it twofold in the sense that, you know, A, we get loot from that first week where we might miss out on not having enough people. Like say we, you know, we've only got 25 people that actually have hit 60 by that point. And the B side of that is, you know, if there's anybody in that group of people, it would be a good environment to pressure them to join.
So, for me, like the immediate thing that comes to mind for me is, like, I don't, you know, we won't really know how it's gonna be until we get there, but when the time comes, the scenario that kind of pops up in my mind is that maybe there's another guild that you could partner with. But personally, you know, and I haven't done too many of these like racing to hold core to get boss. I've done like a couple in the past, but they were insignificant. But in my eyes, I wouldn't really want to fill up a raid with like pugs, like randoms from like world. Well, there won't be a world chat, but you know what I mean. Like fill up random people.
What have you been playing?
Whatever, stragglers. But I like, you know, we'll see what happens at the time. Maybe there's some guilds, you know, there's only 8 people on the server who have the quintessence farmed or whatever, and then we'll partner up and just like that's something to consider. But I don't think it's gonna be like scramble to get the earliest 60s and stuff like that. I don't think we're.
I think it'll happen with Upper Blackrock Spire. I think it'll happen, but I think it'll happen like super early on, like first 3 days of people being 60. But I think, like I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait, not entire lockout, but I'm willing to wait a few days to.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I'm interested in is, you know, what's our allotment to hit 60 if we want to get people in for that first raid. So, you know, if I want to tell my guys or tell whoever, you know, this is when you need to be 60 if you want to be in the first Molten Core.
Shit, get in at 58.
I wouldn't tell anybody to be 60 in a hurry. Like again, I don't want to burn people out. It's phase 1. There's not shit else going on. If you're not in the first Molten Core, you're probably better off anyway because it's gonna be a shit show.
Sure.
And if you like that kind of stuff, and it's not gonna give you bad feeling about the guild or the game to be in that stressful environment of that first Molten Core, then okay. But you know, it could be really brutal for some people.
It's what some of us live for.
Yeah, if people like that kind of wiping and that kind of struggle, a lot of people like smooth content. A lot of like people who know what they're doing. There's gonna be a lot of people who don't know shit about what they're doing because they're playing a class they've never played before. They've never played vanilla before. They've never, you know. There's gonna be a lot of learning going on. There's gonna be a lot of wiping, and people aren't gonna be ready for it. And even for easy content like Molten Core, which is really easy, we are likely gonna zone in before we're ready. And we're gonna force whatever to happen. It's not gonna be natural. It's not gonna be what we should be doing. We should be farming 5-mans, but what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be wiping over like 1 or 2 boss kills here and there, and it'll probably take the whole course of a week to clear the instance.
I don't even think we'll be able to do that. You're being very optimistic.
If that's the case, and you know we don't feel like it's necessarily valuable progress, is it more worth it to take a step back and instead of throwing ourselves in there, better use our time to grind rep, grind materials, grind 5-mans, even at the expense of maybe something that you know, I personally would say, oh hell yeah, I want to dive into that raid, but from an overall team progression perspective, you know, is it then a better call to not go in there at all?
It's pretty beneficial at first because you get a lot of trash drops and things that will sell really, really high. So it's quite
It depends. For Nixia, yeah, I think so. And Nixia is like a raid that's really really painful to wipe in over and over because it's really demoralizing. Because usually people wipe for like a really really dumb reason, one reason or another. But like somebody ends up in a whelp cave or something like that. But Molten Core, at least initial progression, yes and no. I would say we want, like, we should be, ideally we should be funneling people items and stuff like that early on. Like if you find a stockade pauldron, you should be throwing it at a warrior. You shouldn't be selling it. You're not gonna get much gold for it at launch anyway. If you hold it, maybe, but
So
There-
I just want to say for
go ahead.
like, I don't want to overthink it too hard. You know, it's like you realize there's a lot that you can do when you hit 60, and you're gonna want to prioritize and stuff like that. And you might be getting different ideas based on things we said, but like I'll leave it at this: don't rule out anything, because like you know, I don't actually know how many people plan. Like people say they're gonna go hard, and you know, some of them are, and some of them might trail off or whatever. You know, we don't really know. So, like as we get closer to like release and like when we're actually leveling, we can get a better idea of what our full approach is. But what I would say is don't just like I said already, don't dismiss anything. You know, just expect that there's going to be a good amount of people that are going to push for this, because I believe there are. I believe there's, you know, over 20 people that are going to push quite hard for this, and that's like something right there. So like for raids and stuff like that, even though we're saying like there's a lot you can do, like people are still going to want to raid. Like everyone's going to want to do Molten Core. That's a natural thing. So don't rule that out. And just like I'm saying, like the closer we get to it, we'll have a more official stance on it.
Sure, I understand. I'm operating under the assumption that, you know, a lot of us here are more on the hardcore side, so we will be, you know, pushing pretty hard. There'll be some people that won't, but that's also why I want to have a good understanding of what I should be doing with my time to be the most valuable that I can be, if that makes sense.
I know I'm personally taking time off to level. That's not to say other tanks are gonna do it. And Kurtos and these guys who have played with me in the past know I push pretty hard, even going for gear. But the thing you gotta think about with MC even pushing that fast is our tank's gonna take the hits. I know I'm not gonna be defense capped that quick for bosses and such.
I don't think you can get defense cap in general.
That's rough.
You don't worry about defense cap. Just worry about getting a 60.
Early game, I would think you want to go for more for armor and sand, just so you can.
You do.
I don't even think you can get defense cap until later up.
You can get defense. You can get capped, but it's not. You're not gonna have it before you kill rank.
You have to do some quirky stuff.
I think
Well,
one thing like you said is just like we're gonna be doing Molten Core, and when you're fucking playing, like obviously people are gonna be doing shit early on, but that's what it should be. If you're logged in, you should be just doing something at all times. Some classes are better at doing certain things, like we've already covered. Hunters and mages can farm in the world, warlocks, whatever. Warriors should be in dungeons. Like Fury Warriors should be in dungeons tanking. We didn't talk about that. That's more of a warrior class thing, but you know, I know there's a lot of tanks in here. But understand what your class's strengths are for, you know, early level 60, and then just play to your strengths. I think things are gonna fall into place pretty naturally, so
Yeah, it's It's just more like this meeting was more about like letting you know what's gonna be happening, what are the pitfalls we're gonna hit. It's kind of up to you to make a decision of what you should be doing. I can't make that call for you at all, you know, because the situation can change. This isn't our first time doing this though. And I can tell you 1 month after we clear the first molten core, you know, after most people are 60, 1 month after that, it's going to be completely different environment, different tone of raid, different everything. Whenever we're farming content, it's going to be a totally different like way to look at the game than at the launch. The launch people are going to have, they're going to be tired because they've been spending all their time eating ramen and sleeping 4 hours a day so they can level to 60. They're gonna be frustrated. They're gonna get irritable very easily. Just don't let that get the better of you. Make sure people are aware of how that works.
It's like, I'm gonna bite your head off today, but I'll love you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unless your name's Tregs, then you still hate him the next day.
Well, that's understandable.
Gonna try and get 2 weeks off. That's why I'm kind of happy that they postponed the release, because I wasn't gonna be able to get time off in July. So now that they said late August or whatever, that's perfect. Should be able to get 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think majority of people are trying to get time off, but I think I think the first week you want time off so you can get ahead of people, and then you probably the second week you probably don't want time off, because if you're already ahead of people, you probably stay ahead of people, or maybe they catch up to you by the time you're 40, but by that point you're already spread out enough that it doesn't matter. But like when you want time off is that first week of raids. That's going to be brutal on your sleep schedule, probably. That's when that 4-hour raid time is really going to happen. Probably not much after that. Even when we're doing like AQ40, I don't, like, yeah, maybe once or twice, but I don't think it'll be happening like every day, like it will be that first week.
And I'm just throwing this out there as kind of like it doesn't really pertain too much to the officer meeting, but you know, there's a lot of guys in here, and like some of you, the guys that are being promoted, and a couple guys that have been talking, like you guys got people that are playing with us and whatever, guys are following you, or you got friends. We're like, recruitment wise, we're obviously heavy on certain classes and stuff like that. So, you know, like people should obviously play what they want to play and what, you know, they're going to be most invested in, but it's something to keep in mind if people are, you know, if you're bringing new people into the fold, like there's kind of a real lack of certain classes and stuff like that, which is I don't know, it's, you can work around it and stuff like that, but you know, if we're trying to run 3 raid teams and have like balance between them all, we're gonna have to figure out how to split these classes up and stuff.
Do we have a good idea of what we really need so we can target our recruitment posts accordingly?
Not warriors.
Well, that's a given.
Priests.
You made that graph.
Priests, wrestler, shaman.
Priests and shamans.
Priest, shaman, mages, warlocks. Right now, avoid rogues, avoid warriors, avoid like if a warrior is posting like, hey, I'm looking for a guild and I have like 5 friends. Okay, like then maybe the warrior's okay, but try to avoid warriors that aren't coming as part of a package.
Sure. I mean, you usually want to account for potential drop off anyway.
I know I'm personally finding people who are trying to go ranged or some type of caster.
It's not to say we can't have more melee, but they need to be like number one thing I'm looking for right now is really dedicated and hardcore PvPers. Like that's number one what I need defined. It's just not for ranking, Kirby. I need to find hardcore PvPers who are gonna rank.
I think with the PvP, people aren't going to go that hardcore until Phase 2 and the ranking system comes out.
Oh, I'm ganking people, right?
Yeah, there's not gonna be PvP in Phase 1 at all, but Phase 2 is when it's really gonna happen, and that's when I need people. Like that's when I need people to.
I'm definitely going to be ranking. I don't necessarily know if it's something that I'd want to step into from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, I need people who are gonna organize it. I just need people who are gonna be serious about it. Because right now I have a bunch of people that are just looking to hit rank 10. Nobody's hitting rank 14. I understand that maybe we don't have a guild of people who want to hit rank 14, but those are the kind of hardcore people I'm looking for, like specifically. And I don't care what class they are. If they're serious about hitting rank 14 and they're actually gonna do it, then I'm interested.
I'm very serious about it myself, but it's the kind of thing that you really need to build a dedicated team around. So,
Right.
I mean, the best thing I would think to do is tailor the recruitment posts going forward 100% to, we only want this class and we only want hardcore PvPers, because that's going to tell potential applicants, these guys have already got their shit together. These guys are way farther down the line than any of the other guilds that are just like, yeah, come on in, come on in, come on in, because we'll be the ones saying, no, we're good on warriors, we're good on rogues, we're looking for hardcore these guys, and that's going to pull those guys' attention.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do because our recruitment's doing pretty well in general. So I think that's where I'm gonna be focusing. I think you're right
Recruitment's pretty much all about appearances, to be honest. I mean, I know that
Right.
sounds ridiculous, but that's just how it is.
No, it 100% is like one of the factors determining who gets an anti-ash or who gets a mount from fucking Zolgrub is gonna be okay. This guy is like our main tank. Like this is a decision I made before. This guy's a main tank, so you should have the mount because when a guy in Orgrimmar inspects our main tank, sees a mount on him, sees all this gear, he's gonna be like, "Holy shit, this guild's serious."
Hell yeah, dude.
It's not necessarily about yeah.
Appearances are in this game.
So
Alright.
I agree with that. I'm gonna change the guild recruitment message. Right now it's kind of general because I was looking for like groups of people and things like that, and more open towards recruitment. And I didn't want to scare people away because some people can get scared away by the hardcore rhetoric, as well.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to make I don't want to say you have to make a decision, but you really got to decide if that's what you're going for, and that's partially what you're targeting. If you're gonna pull that audience in, you kind of have to be going for that audience. If that.
Yeah, of course.
So I just a quick little addition, kind of unrelated to what we're just talking about, but with like what we're striving for, it's gonna be hard to organize all this, and like it's gonna take different tools that we haven't really used in the past to get this done. People are, like, when we talk about signing up for raids and stuff like that, like that's gonna be a thing. Like we've tried to execute that before, and unsuccessfully, because like people just act like they don't know how to use add-ons and stuff like that, and there's gonna be like that's gonna be a thing. Like it probably won't be there for the first raid, molten core, whatever, but that's definitely gonna be a thing. And those systems, like when we know more, we'll talk more with the officers about it. But like people need to be aware of that. Like the organization for what we're doing, it's gonna be a lot harder than anything we've done before. And that's not even factoring in scarab lords and rep grinds and all that shit. So people need to be ready for that.
Some of those systems, I mean, they could theoretically build on top of one of each on each other, right? I mean, once you've got X layout figured out for how you're going to handle a certain problem, that same layout can then be applied to the next. So by the time we hit Scarab Lord issues, you know, we've kind of already laid the organizational groundwork.
I'm actually kind of glad that you guys brought that up, because one of the things I was going to ask towards the end of this is I was going to see, is it possible that we can get at least the group that's on here right now to make a guild on the current Battle for Azeroth server so that we can start putting some of these systems into place, so at least there's a skeleton format? Like, I know I've been working on an analyzer sheet, and I want to try to convert it, but unfortunately it pulls information from the armory, and the only way for me to test it is to have a guild with characters to pull data from the armory.
I mean, I know I have access to a few realms, and I could probably, you know, help start the guild.
Yeah,
I can do it
really
right now on
convenient.
Korgath if
I was
someone
gonna
wants to
say,
log in.
I don't know, but I think that everyone should be able to do it, because even if you have a trial account, as long as you have somebody on your BattleNet list, they should be able to invite you to a guild, and that might be the only guild that you can join. But if that's true, everyone should be able to do it on a free account at least.
I'm not certain about that one. I don't know if you can join guilds through Star.
I think you have to be level 10 in order to actually sign the charter.
You have to be off the starter account. To be
Yeah, you can't be
Okay.
on the starter account.
But you might be able to join the guild if there's somebody already in there that's on your battle. But yeah, you can't sign it.
I mean, you got to be subbed for
For
retail
classic
and
anyway,
classic. Yeah, so I mean, it's not really any harm. I mean, if anybody wants to do that, I can help sign the charter for whatever, right?
I mean, if
Korgath, I gotta
Okay, are you Horde or Alliance on Korgath?
both.
Okay, my tunes are Alliance.
Alright, let me switch over to mine.
I was gonna say I can hop on to retail real quick.
I'll put my name in game here in the social chat. And whenever Kurthos makes a retail, I'll pass lead or whatever.
No, you can do whatever you want with it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about getting me leader to a retail guild. It doesn't matter to me.
Matters to some, so I just wanted to say it.
Gotcha.
So did anybody care on the specific server we do this on?
I mean, if people have established on one server, that's good. I mean, it sounds like Korgath, a few people are already established. I know I'm on Tyconus and Rune Totem.
Yeah,
Established, I just have tunes here.
I'm the extremes. My alliance guys are on Proudmoore, my horde guys are on Ill.
I mean, we could do this wherever.
They're making a retail guild to do some
I
testing
mean,
with
if you want
some
to, we can
shit.
go on to one of those like
some
new player,
shit
right,
they're
to start
designing.
a completely new character.
I don't want to have to level characters on live just to sign a guild charter.
Just make a allied race, level 20.
I don't know if everybody in here has access to that.
Yeah, you're right. So, are we just doing it on Korgath then?
Yeah, I'm already getting the guild charter now, so it's probably.
What type of realm is Korgath?
It is a PvP server.
Those don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Is it? I meant like,
Oh,
is it
fuck,
RP or
I don't-
normal?
What's
I
the
don't
size? What's the size?
Yeah.
You know what? Never mind. It begins with a K, right?
It used to be
Yeah,
a large
okay.
server. That's
Got it.
all.
Sad. It's medium now. You
Okay.
said this is Horde?
Alliance.
Alliance. Okay.
Korgath, okay.
Flying, do you know?
The UI is a goddamn mess. Holy shit.
Maximum number of fucking characters on my account.
You already have 50.
Omega lol.
Yeah.
I'm in front of the bank. You keep phasing in and out, it looks like.
A feeling when I don't have any alliance allied races unlocked because I'm a horde.
I ain't got none unlocked either, so.
It's a bigger hit.
That's why I didn't care what server we did it on, because
Just
have
be
it
like
up.
a demon knight, or
Yeah.
I don't think you can't make a demon hunter unless you have a level 75 on the account or on that server.
oh, on the server
Make it
too.
Death
Yeah.
Knight. Death Knight will take 2.
Oh yeah, it's on the server.
Death Knight's factionless for the first 5 levels.
Yeah. Jesus. There is no easy way to do this.
Yeah, there is. Create a level 1 and then we'll just fly out to you.
I just made a human warrior.
Where the hell is this in my inventory?
Still trying to find a character.
Send me a message when you log in. I'm on AKILIA.
Wait, Redzone, do I have you on BattleNet?
Yes. Wait, I don't know.
I don't know, do I have you on BattleNet?
No, you don't.
Says you're already in a guild. You gotta leave your current guild to kill you.
1 second, once it loads in, I'll add you.
Red zone.
We said Kargath, yeah?
Korgath, yeah. Korgath with an O.
Oh, fuck.
Rip.
Here,
I
jump
need
on.
3 more.
Yeah, jump on.
Oh shit, that's a low population. Damn.
It used to be a really big server, man. It almost breaks my heart.
It was, this server was popping pretty good, but then they offered free transfers up because the server was getting low and another one needed them and people took the free transfer.
I think realm transfers are one of the worst things that ever happened in this game.
100% agree.
They will be available in Classic too. Where you at?
No,
Yeah, but
watch
it's
them.
less servers overall, so it's not. I think it's fine.
Just send a whisper to me and I'll get you an invite.
I guess we're standing near Rundos.
Yeah, just look for the guy with the giant green shit coming out of his.
Offer these guys a gold. They'll fucking sign up.
Where are you, Redzone?
We're standing in front
How
of
I prevent it? By having people,
What are you?
having
Oh,
enough people that I can
What
replace people
class are
who
you?
don't log in.
Death Knight.
Just come forward so I know
Or
who you are, so I
slow.
can get you to sign.
I mean, it's gonna happen sometimes,
What's your name?
but when we were doing it on like Nax, the last couple times we were doing it in under 20 minutes. So like invites and wool buffs. So yeah, it was a little bit slow. I mean, 20 minutes is still slow, but ideally it's like 15 minutes.
That's my BattleNet. If you want to have it really.
Damn. I got so used to how quickly the beta loads. Now I'm sitting in this ridiculous load screen.
I went to Kargath, not Korgath. That
Yeah, that's why I asked first. I was like, fuck.
that I should have gone on the right server. Yeah, that would help. I thought I heard Korgath, but I only saw Kargath, so I was like, did you mean Kargath or?
It's so dumb they name this like the same fucking thing.
Need 3 more people so I can get this stat.
Alright, I'm making the character
Waiting
now.
to be on a loading screen here soon. Oh, hey, that's what add-ons look like.
Yeah.
Alright. Do I have to do these quests? Can I just come right into this?
Just literally walk to the Death Knight on what looks like Invincible. Yeah. And the
Alright, where are you for this? Are you in Stormwind?
No, we're literally right where you spawn in for a new character.
For what race?
But yes.
Human.
Oh, okay.
I sent him a signature request.
Alright. I don't know the fastest way to get there.
Just make a human.
I'm dumb. I made a fat
Yes,
human.
Did you get the signature request? All I've got's Achille and Durant.
Yeah, what up? Angus is right here.
There you are. Hey Angus, has anybody ever called you Silent G?
That's a new one. That is the new one.
You know, because it makes your name Anus.
I mean, throughout like Red Zone's heard of. I've had a few different nicknames playing with.
We got a
Guild
coworker
characters.
of mine, and his name is Angus. One of the warehouse guys called him Silent G, and it's stuck with him.
The one that I've been called the most, at least on Primal, was Goose. Was one of them.
And Goose, yeah, that's a good one.
No, literally, they would just call me Goose. That's it.
I need one more signature to get this done.
I'll be there in a second.
Alright, boys, that's it for me. 3:30's coming quick.
Have a good night.
Yep, there goes.
See you, man.
Later.
Do you have to be like right next to the person for the charter?
No, I just need to know your name so I can.
Shift core.
Did you make character on the right server?
Yes.
You Korgath, not Kargath.
Yes.
Okay. Did you do a
Yes, sir.
human?
I guess I have to
fat
be
human.
You need to be a regular human.
I'm almost there. I'm just run in there.
Run in there. What? You should
Where
start
are
right
you?
here.
Where are you?
Where are you, dude?
You start in fucking Desire. I'm an ally
Alright,
race.
thanks for watching the stream, guys. GG.
The fuck?
I made a Cultiran human.
Just get on your heirloom mount.
Cold.